Hello, everyone. How is everyone doing today? I hope you're doing okay. Welcome to Skeptic Haven, a place where we have conversations, a place where we, have some of those conversations that, people sometimes are uncomfortable to have. It is a place where people can, just be yourselves and you can debate, you can converse, and just be yourselves. And so, yes, join me. Today, we're going to be talking about the caste system of India, right? India has a caste system. Some people are considered of a different caste, and some are different, a different caste altogether. But what is this about? Especially for myself. Of course, I'm not Indian, don't look Indian at all. But this is a subject that I've always wanted to get involved in. It's something that I would want to know about. So we've got two people here who are very knowledgeable on the subject, and they're going to tell us all about the caste system of India. Apparently, in this caste system, there are some people that are the untouchables. You can't touch them. They are they're completely in a different uh ball game, a different sect of their own. And so we're going to be looking at all of that. I haven't got plenty of knowledge on the subject because this is a it's completely new to myself. But join me. Let's talk about this. Let's figure out what this caste system is all about. And I've got two people here who are going to touch on this subject. Raj, call me atheist. He's one of them. He's been on this channel several times already. And we also have the other person, Xandrieth. He also is going to be telling us all about the caste system of India. So I would suggest that you sit back, relax, join in the conversation, but don't forget, if you are not subscribed, make sure to subscribe to the Skeptic Haven, and also make sure to give the stream a thumbs up. And together, hopefully by the end of this, we will figure out what the caste system is all about and why this is a conversation in 2023 that needs to be had. Why are there people who are untouchable? Nobody, as far as I'm concerned, should be untouchable. We will touch you. Whoever you are, we will touch you. There's no untouchables as far as I am concerned in my books. So let's go. Hello, we're back again. Raj, you're absolutely welcome. Xandrieth, you're absolutely welcome. As you all can clearly see, I am not of any of the caste system. I'm from I'm from the outside looking in. So this is a subject that I'm hoping that both of you would do justice to. So yeah, which we whoever wants to start, please go ahead.
I can go first if that's all right.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
just a bit of background without giving too much information. I, according to my parents, I was born in a lower caste because they are from the lower caste. It's called a There's a mixture of castes, but the sect is called schedule caste. So what happened is when you're born, you get a little certificate which tells you that you're from the lower caste. It has quite a bit of benefits because if you are applying for some studies, the schools have this uh, reservation for that. So if I show them the certificate, so for example, if I have just 60% marks, and to get into the school you need about 70, 75, then if I have this certificate, I can use it, and then 60% plus this certificate, and that'll let me in the school. And this is because I think the government wanted to, get the lower caste people up, in the chain. So maybe that's why they had it. By the way, I never used that certificate. It was just
Right.
bogus for me. And same, I think if you're applying for a government jobs, this certificate help as well. So right off the bat, I was in the scheduled caste, and I never noticed the caste system until I was in college. Because before I had like, I think I was shielded from a lot of things by my
Hmm.
parents, and I never really understood the meaning of it. We just knew the first name of other people. We never think about the surname of other people. And then what happened is when we went to college, there's people coming from different cities and different states, and the word they will use is gotra in my area, is which means like, which there's a caste, and then within that caste, which subsect are you in? That thing is called gotra.
Hmm.
And they would ask like, and I was like, I asked my dad like, which gotra am I in? Because a lot of people seem to be really interested in that. And he never really gave me a straight answer, and because we were, become friends and all that, that never really mattered. But I knew that that certificate was important, because when I was getting an admission, they were saying, in the college when I was getting admission, they were saying that you need to have, good percentage and all that stuff, which luckily I was enough to get in and never had to use it. But then my dad even mentioned that, there's a certificate that, you can use if in case you're, because I'm not really into studies, or I wasn't the most intelligent student, as they say.
No,
So,
no, no way, no way, Raj.
no, I hated school.
Did
Because
you?
I liked computers, and that's about it.
Mm.
But I never, like, I liked a bit of science, but then after some time it became chemistry and physics, and that became too complicated for me, and plus it had maths in it, so it just didn't I didn't like it. It's coming back to the topics. That's why you know the other perspective is when you're in a general category, which is a combination of all the non lower caste people. They have to have good percentage of marks to get into the schools, or they have to compete with a lot more people, like a reserved category person, which is scheduled caste, lower, or it is sometimes people who have like the dad could be in the army, or parents could be working in some specialized field, so they are all in the reserve category. And what happened is the general category has to compete with all of them, because the reserve category candidate can compete on a normal level without using the certificate. And if they fall short, they can use that certificate to bounce back and get them. So I was just gonna give a different perspective. Now coming back to the real caste system that is in India, which is, I think it's the segregation of humans according to how they are born. So if you're born in a family which is say Brahmin, which is the top caste, and then you're automatically somehow better than everybody else. And within Brahmins, there's a lot of sects as well. Like there's like upper caste pundits, and then there is lower caste pundits, which is all above the other people. And then there is like Kshatriya, which again there is second level is Kshatriya, I think, and the third level is Shudra, and then going forward there is a lot lowers. After all those levels, the category that comes in is untouchables,
Hmm.
which are supposed to be the people who just do sweeping at home or cleaning at home, like really bottom of the barrel people. So a Brahmin cannot eat in the house of a untouchable, because that's considered really, really bad. And and they don't even drink water in their house.
Wow.
So it's pretty bad over there, with that with that caste system. And I've never seen it until you go out and you start working and you explore different cities, and you see how people treat other people just because their caste is different.
So so
Even in,
so these untouchables, what are they called?
they're literally called untouchables, and I think
Really?
Dalits. Yeah. Well,
Hmm.
a Hindi word is achut,
Ach-
which, like, there is a word called chuna, which means touch, to touch someone, and then achut is like opposite, like you don't touch these people.
Right.
So it's like being in North Korea and you're not Kim Jong Un, basically.
Hmm.
So that's my perspective. I'll let Zendrit talk a bit, because otherwise I'll keep talking.
No, that's fine. And yeah, what he said is pretty much a good summary. And so, like, instead of going over, I'll just add the things that he did mention, or besides my experience and stuff like that. And he mentioned about the Brahmin and etc. structure. So the caste system is comes from the Vedas. Vedas are the Oh, by the way, the caste thing is not exactly a completely Indian thing. It's a Hindu thing. Like India
Right.
is a mixed cultural country where there's a huge ton of migration, immigration, travel, blah
Mhm.
blah blah. And the caste system is a Hindu thing, and the non-Hindus fall below the upper caste, like in terms of social hierarchy, but they're not part of the caste system from a Hindu perspective, not from a overall general perspective. And the caste system comes from the books called Vedas. You might have heard about Vedas. Like, I'm not sure if you've heard about it, but it's something that people know a little outside of India as well. The
Mhm.
Vedas are basically what Hinduism is supposed to be based on. There are other books of scripture as well, but the thing about Hinduism is it's not one single book, and most people associate Vedas as the primary source of stuff, although there are several other books as well. And some what some people put caste system as is something that comes from occupation, which is not completely false. It did start as an occupational thing. Like the castes are support the castes are, if you were talking to someone, and you can guess their caste by their surname, and the surname initially came from the occupation. Like okay, for example, Majhi is a surname, and Majhi in Indian language, both in some of the Indian language, both in Hindi, Bengali, and few other language, means fisherman. So someone who has a title of Majhi come from a family of fishermen back in the days, like not in present day. They might be doing whatever they are doing now, IT or whatever, but that
Mhm.
was the concept. But although that was the base of the caste system, that's not what it ended. It ended up becoming a very discriminative system of social hierarchy. You had the system that Raj has already mentioned about the untouchability and stuff like that. And the general segregation is about the Brahmins who are on the top. Then come the Kshatriyas. The Brahmins are basically the wisdom class, if you would label it that way. Like they are the knowledge keepers and stuff like that. And the Kshatriyas are the warriors. The military, the generals, people like that. And then comes the Vaishnavas, and the Vaishnavas are basically the businessmen who are running shops, small shops, stuff like that,
Mhm.
based on the caste concept, not practical concept. And then come the Sudras. Sudras are the servicemen who work below everyone, like not just sweepers, but everything that the servicemen do. For example, if you put a corporate language, then maybe the freshers would be the Sudras in a work-related hierarchy. And in the modern reservation system that the India has in its governmental system, it's determined as general, OBC, and SC/ST. So OBC, I keep forgetting the full form of OBC, but the general is comprised of mostly the Brahmins and the Kshatriyas, and the other upper level outside the Hindu society as well. Like Sikh usually falls under the general category, and then the Sudras, Vaishnavas, and the lower caste follow under the ST/SC, which is scheduled caste or scheduled tribes. And the tribes which are not who are not may not be part of any major religion of India comes under the ST segment, the
Right.
scheduled tribes. And the OBC is a bit confusing. I'm not 100% well. I don't
Oh,
understand that system completely well either. Okay, I think Raj knows about that.
No,
oh no, just saying. Sorry.
before Raj goes, I'm curious, both of you, did any of you come from the um,
Uh,
untouchable caste? Any of you?
no, no, not me, and
No?
I don't think Raj either.
No.
No,
Okay.
the untouchability is not as prominent today as it used to be, but it's
Right.
not
Okay.
completely vanished either. Like, if you
Mhm.
look from outside, it might notice like it is a problem of the past, but that is not exactly the case. Like now, you might have to go in a very remote place that's outside of direct observation of the society to find it, but it does exist still now.
Right. Okay. And when you say untouchable, what does untouchable mean? Does it mean that you cannot question? Does it mean you cannot everything they say is right? Or what does untouchable mean?
Okay, it's actually quite the opposite. And outside of this caste terminology, when you talk about untouchable, you usually mean someone you cannot touch, like in a good sense, like he's beyond your reach and all. But that's not the concept here. Here, untouchable also means you cannot touch, but it means that they are bad to touch. Like if you touch them, you will
Oh,
receive bad karma, stuff like that. Like it will be bad for you.
they
Like
they
they are below
segregate
humans.
them. They
Yeah,
segregate
yeah,
them.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
see. So you're not to have any associations with them. You're not to have friend. You're not to they're not to be your friends. You're not to marry them. You're not to is that sort of thing?
yeah, completely. They
Oh
are not allowed
wow.
to do anything beyond what they are expected to do. For example, Raj has already mentioned the sweepers, people of that
Mm,
crater, and uh, usually what happens is in a modern society, the people who are sweeping because they don't have better opportunity or they are at a place where they can't access them. But in the untouchable system and the people who promote that kind of mentality, they won't allow a sweeper to do anything other than sweeping. Like no matter it's not just because maybe someone cannot do anything else. Maybe because he cannot access. Maybe he cannot access education. Maybe he doesn't have the means for that. But under the caste system, he wouldn't be allowed to do that even if he tries. Like that's the mentality of the casteism, and that's the problem. Like not someone sweeping, but someone sweeping because he won't be allowed to do anything other than that.
terrible.
Just to touch on a bit of it. So OBC stands for other backward classes, which there is a lot of caste and classes there. So that's why OBC is other backward classes, backward being the keyword. And whenever I'm saying, or whenever Xandrieth is saying untouchable, we do mean Dalit. Dalit comes from a Sanskrit word which means broken or scattered.
Mm-mm.
So the people who can't be fixed, basically. And I'm going to use slightly a bad language, or the quote that I heard long time ago is, because you mentioned about the marriage stuff. So what it means is, or this is what I've heard, and I quote, you don't marry a dog.
Hmm.
So anyone from the untouchable is considered like an animal, and you don't marry them. You just push them down. And that's why there's a lot of Dalit thing as well. That's like, uh, you push them down. You don't want to get them up, and that's why people don't let them enter into temples. And if the upper caste people generally push them down, and that's why they don't go to the uh, house of the Dalit to even have a cup of water or anything. There's a lot of political propaganda in which some politicians will go to a Dalit house, and it's a big news in India. Like, this politician went to this house and had food with them, so they're trying to lift up the Dalits to get some votes. Well, it's bollocks. And in reality, and there was some sting operation that I saw. They call it sting operation for some reason, and in which the politician that went to the house actually brought food with him. He just sat down and had it, and then he wouldn't let the other people even touch his plate. Uh, to
Ah.
they were just like on camera, and these guys have to confine to whatever been told to them
Mm-mm.
because they've grown up in that society and they don't know any better. When you're It's like, religion on a steroid is, you just don't know that you can be better. You've always been told that you'll stay here, and it is because of God that you've been brought here. And other people just say that the God has put you in this caste. There must be a good reason for it, and this is just really upsetting because well, who knows? Or I don't think there's a God. So why would a God classify people in different things? And what made you special that you become in an upper caste? It's just your parents mated and then you're here. You know, that's the thing.
So, I'm from the outside looking in, trying to understand this caste system. But I was once of the Christian religion,
Mm,
and one of the reasons why I am no longer a Christian today is the idea that the Christian God, had his own special people. He had a set of people who he considered as his his people, and everyone else were outside of that, and everyone else got a different treatment. You were treated completely different from God's own people. And God used to tell his people, you can take those people as slaves. You can go into their lands and take them for your own. God would tell them what land specifically to go in and grab and kill the men, kill the women, kill the children, kill everything. Take everything that they have for yourselves. Take the gold, the silver, everything, but keep for yourselves virgin girls. You can kill the women, kill the pregnant, kill everyone else, but the virgin girls, those you can keep for yourselves, right? And so
mm,
there was this us versus them mentality, right? And so I guess with religion and gods, that's what tends to happen. You will have a division. There's always going to be a separation, segregation of people. These are the God's people. These are the God's special kind of people. And these are the people, no, these are the ones that God doesn't want. And these are the ones that God thinks are an abomination. So it's not surprising hearing about this, because that's just how religion goes. That's how whatever religion you subscribe to, whatever religion you can think of, will always have these sorts of things happening within them. Well, I'm curious to know, where do you both stand now with the caste system? Do you still see them as untouchables, or do you see them as, just they're just like us? Nothing. There's nothing. Quite. Why are we demeaning these people? Why are we calling them? Um, because of, just simply because of the family they're born into. Do you see it as a ridiculous thing, and you think that this should be completely eradicated? What are your thoughts?
you can go
Okay.
ahead.
Yeah. And see, we are not actually exactly part of the system in a way, because the caste system is a Hindu construct, and since we all three of us are atheists there, so we already by default reject that. So we personally don't think that. And about where they stand, they're just us but underprivileged. And there's a concept that they're not good at doing stuff, and it's a bit true, but people don't realize that it is because they have been prevented from learning doing stuff. Like, you cannot prevent someone from learning something and then complain, oh, he can't do that, of course I cannot let him do that. So that's a very dumb idea, and that's what this casteism mentality runs on. And since you bring forward the God's chosen people, I want to add on that, since I missed on that earlier. Remember the hierarchy I said about Brahmins, Kshatriyas and all. I forgot to mention Dalits there, because as Raj has mentioned, the untouchability thing is the Dalits. Like, the other four I have mentioned are not them. They are within the caste system, and like within the the segregation, and the Dalits are outside of it and considered below it. So that's the untouchability concept. So giving a caste name would be Dalit, and basically they were untouchables, and they are doing better now in from a overlook. But even if you go in some places, they face discrimination almost everywhere. But it's the severity of it depends upon where you are looking at from. And I personally, we both come from Hindu families, and my parents are like Brahmins. So I have been privileged from a social hierarchy standpoint, although I wasn't that privileged because I don't come from a rich family. Like, by Brahmins, people usually, expect rich, since there's a historical advantage due to the caste system and all. So, and I didn't the thing about caste is I didn't experience it myself, and I didn't notice it in my early days, since I was on the better side of it. So you usually don't notice things when you are not at the receiving end. So that was my case. It took me a while to come out of where I live and then slowly notice things. Okay, it's not something that shouldn't happen on all. Like, noticing other people mention stuff like that. And even though my parents are not they're religious, but they're not radicals. Like, they don't promote that they should be thrown out of country and that level of toxicity. But they still have a bit of mentality, like the lower caste being inferior in some way. Maybe not in a way that they will mistreat them, but they have a thing that we know better, we have better knowledge, and that kind of soft mentality that we are better. And of course, I don't like that, but that's the case with the religious side, that maybe they are not promoting to make them war, make them sweep, and that label is not as prominent as it used to be some decades earlier. But it still lies in a soft, discriminative mentality even today, even among the modern ones. And if I had to tell where I come from, there are mainly two cities that I would associate with, and both have a little bit of cosmopolitan society. Like, it's not a single kind of people in the entire city, so it's not as hard as some other places I visited in India, where the division of diversity is quite lower. In places where diversity is lower, you will notice is much harder, because there are more stronger segregation of people from the same caste in different parts of the city. So that's the case. For example, if I had to take names, like Kuchbehar is a small town. It's a pretty small town, though I don't expect you to have heard about that. Then I live now in Bhubaneswar. It's a proper city. It's a proper city, and it's a job. It's a place where people come from different segments for jobs and stuff like that. So it's not as bad here. But I've been to places like Chhattisgarh and all, where it's more towards the village side. Hence, it's about people who have born there and stayed there, not people coming from outside. So places like that, the discrimination is more prominent. Uh, in Bhubaneswar and Kuchbehar, people, I haven't been asked about my caste. People, it's not a question that you get asked. Like, people don't ask your caste, they usually assume by your name or stuff like that.
Right.
But in
Okay. Yeah.
Chhattisgarh, people has literally asked my caste. Like, I usually avoid that question because like, I don't want to play the Brahmin card, and if I say that I'm an atheist, they usually don't understand, so it's
No.
of no use. I usually just avoid the question depending on who's asking. But that's the case. It depends a bit from where in India you're talking about.
In your opinion, both of you, where did this start from? Whose idea was it to look at a set of people and decide that you are the untouchables? Or what was it? Was it something that was unique about these people that made people determine that they were um, to be separated from everyone else? What exactly? Or is it a religious thing? So what started this?
If I can go on that, so with religion, I think as Zendrit was mentioning, that all the information comes from Vedas, and we're just talking about Hinduism at this point. And in there are some books which are called the essence of Vedas, and the essence is called Smriti. So the book
Yeah.
of Manu Smriti, written by a guy named Manu, and then this mentions about the caste system there. So it doesn't directly tell you like this is what people do, but it does show like a lot of majority of it is written on Brahmins, which are they are told what they should be doing, and they should be the upper caste people, and
Hmm.
just about a couple of lines for Shudra, which are the lower caste, and then a bit about untouchable, like whatever's remaining is just untouchable or Dalits. And this is where I think the caste system started. Although there was a guy, and I'm gonna forget his name. He burnt Manusmriti in protest, saying that this is not right. I can't remember it at at the moment. And
Is it Kanchan Ilahi, or I'm not completely sure.
I
You
think
go
it
on. Let
was.
me check that out. I kind of forgot
I
it.
think yeah, I'm not exactly sure. And
Yeah, I will check
when
that
you're
out.
gonna yeah. So this is I think the book which kind of told people like we are in the upper caste and lower caste, and that's when people start to mistreat other people depending on caste. Um, an instance that I remember when Zendrich was talking is there was a gardener who was sitting. Well, there was a gardener, and he was just sitting on a chair in a garden because he was tired and having a break. And then some other guy turned up who was Brahmin, because you can tell from his clothes. And when he came down, immediately the garden got off the chair and sat down on the ground. And in India, when you're sitting on the ground on a sunny day, it's really hot and it's not cushioned or anything. And then the Brahmin sat on the chair and literally treating the other guy like dirt, because he's the Brahmins from upper caste. Even the Brahmin didn't really look that great. uh, or we generally call it Pandit from where I come from. And he wouldn't like he'll just told the Dalit to go away, and he did go away, because if he wouldn't go away and the Brahmin makes a fuss about it or the Pandit make a fuss about it, then that Dalit can be beaten really badly, uh, just for no reason. It's just because I want to, kind of stuff. And this happens quite frequently, and you don't notice it until you see it. And I've never noticed it, admittedly, when I was not an atheist. I used to think this is all right because I am born into this system, and God must have had good plans for me. Even though I was from the lower caste, I
Mm-mm.
still thought that the lower people than I am uh, are just are to serve us. It's like if you watch Spartacus or any of the old dramas, the the slaves and stuff. So it's almost to that level, maybe worse. And I used to think it's It's okay. But when I became an atheist, and you start thinking a lot, I think, and you
Yes,
can't help,
absolutely.
but see, like, why is it?
Mm,
I'm treating this gardener badly. Why is
mm,
it? Although I like doing gardening as well, sometimes, and then I can grow a few things. And why am I better than this guy? Is just doing his job. And
yeah,
then and it is considered really big if a son of a gardener or a sweeper or any of those people go study in the school, like they are bullied, the children are bullied, and the parents, because they're from the Dalit caste or lower caste, they can't do anything about it.
that's terrible.
Like this child could just be like, oh, you just stay here and all the other students in the class will go and have fun, but they wouldn't want to talk to him, they wouldn't want to play with him. It doesn't happen the in the cosmopolitan cities as much, because there are a lot of strict laws. But the more uneducated area you go, or the more where it's just one sort of religion. So if you go to a state, then it's got a separate culture. But if you're in a cosmopolitan, the cultures kind of mix up. So whenever the cultures mix up, it's it's more tolerant, for lack of a better word, and everything kind of is treated equally. But when you go to a state, say a state of Haryana or state of UP, then it's more prominent, because it's just ruled by one sort of people. And over there it gets really bad. And
Mm,
because these guys are so segregated in schools when you're growing up, they're always they always think that they are bad. And it's really hard to change the thinking, as we can all appreciate. Like for me, it was really hard to think that there was no God. It's just, it's not in your mindset. And you would think that, oh yeah, science is cool and all that. But it was really hard for me to, you know s- think about that stuff. The marriages and stuff, if you want to go to, like last time I showed you that there's a shadi.com website. And if you look at the homepage, it tells you about different castes that you're looking for to get married. If, say, I'm from a scheduled caste, my parents would be looking for a girl who is from the same caste as me. And even in the scheduled caste, there's a lot of other subsects, which is, some of them I don't even know. And they will look for a girl who's the same caste or lower caste than me, because there is a misogyny element in that as well, because the boy has to earn more and the girl should always be lower. So that's why the boy's side can always have an upper hand, because
she
A,
does.
they are higher.
Does the woman have to be at home raising the children while the man is out there getting? He's out at work. Is that the sort of thing that
That's
the
exactly the sort of
expectation?
thing.
Hmm, hmm.
That's
I
exactly
mean,
it. Like the term is called housewives.
hmm
So growing up, I genuinely thought that I just have to earn and I have to provide for my family. And my cousins, they don't need to study that much, or who cares about if they get to like 10th standard or pass or go to college, because they're going to get married.
hmm
And by that, what was implied is they don't need studies and all that, because they're just going to be cooking food. And
taking care
now
of the
I
children.
yeah. Yeah, now
So
I
there's
think
the
about it, even talking about it is just making me nervous. Like, how can I think that?
mm,
And it's embarrassing to say that, to be honest. But at
there's a
that time, yeah,
sorry to interrupt. There's a question. Are you still having a lot of honor killings because of the inner caste marriage? Before you answer this question, I will tell you about a friend. Well, she was a colleague, just someone who we went to school together. I remember her telling me that she her parents had an arranged marriage for her. It was all set and everything, but she said it wasn't a love marriage, and she wanted a love marriage. She wanted someone who she would rather be with and be in love with. And so, but the parents know. They said, no, we want you to be with this person who is of the same caste, right? But she didn't want that. She wanted someone from a completely different caste, from a different, someone completely different. And so she decided to cut her family off, run away, to go and be with this person who she was with. And it was so heartbreaking to hear her story that this is the person she would rather be with. But for that reason, she has to cut away from the family. She has no relationship at all with the family. The family want nothing to do with her. And even if she does if she does come back over there, she said to me that they could take her life for that reason, because she decides to be with someone who she's in love with. I mean, that's a huge, huge price to pay, huge price for love, as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, this question says, are you still having a lot of honor killings because of this particular inner caste marriage system?
Yeah.
Yes. uh, Not as much as I said, just like the untouchability thing, it's not as prominent as it used to be, but it still happens, and it depends on how closer to the modern society the particular place is. The more outside and more out of modern, like modern watches it is, like how should I point it? Like the more out of touch it is with the modern society, the more you can hide things easily, the more prominent this kind of problems are there. So it still make news once in a while, although it happens a lot more than the number of times it comes on news. But yeah, it's not as bad as it used to be, but it's still not as good as it needs to be. That's the thing, as most things happen to be.
Do you think you can do you think it will ever be eradicated? Do you think it would be a thing of the past, this caste system? I know you said it's not as prominent right now, but it's still there. It's still it's hidden in plain sight. But do you think this is something that we can eventually get rid of?
That's a bit hard to say. For example, maybe caste system is something that gets even less acceptable with the passing days. But then again, I don't expect humanity as a whole to get rid of religion anytime soon. I don't see it happening, or I don't project it to happen after a while, unfortunately. For example, in the 1990s or 80s, sometime around that, there was a backstep on religion. Like religion started becoming less popular in the USA, but that
Mhm.
got replaced with the cult culture. So it got replaced with something that's similarly bad. So it's not something that got eradicated, and that's the kind of mentality humans have about in searching for a community, and that's what that's a craving religion fulfills. It doesn't give anything good, but it fulfills that craving of humanity, which is why I don't expect humanity as a whole to get rid of it. Even if it does get rid of religion, there's a very good chance that it will be replaced with something just as bad,
Mm,
unfortunately. And
right.
there are there's one more comment I want to address. I think it was from Crystal, some psychic Crystal, something like that, and she's correct
Yeah.
about the Varna system. The Varna system came from Vedas, and it was about your occupation, as I mentioned. We are not sure how it turned into this toxic caste system, and Manusmriti is the book that properly establishes the caste hierarchy and the untouchability and the rules and regulations of that properly. The Vedas itself don't do that. They introduce varnas as the occupation thing. And when this turn happened and how did it happened, nobody really knows for sure at the moment, because this Hinduism is really old. It's like it has been in known existent from around 5,000 BC or something like that. I might be a little wrong about the dates, but it's really old, like older than any known religion that still exists. So that's the thing. Hence, we don't know much about the recorded part of it. And you mentioned about the God's chosen people. So with that, there's a concept of behind its casteism that in Hinduism, uh, Hinduism and the dharmic religions as uh, some religions are grouped together as, for example, there are the Abrahamic religions and there are dharmic religions, and Hinduism is part of that. It's the concept of rebirth, birth, rebirth, and the circle of reincarnation. So that's something that used to explain the social hierarchy. The concept is that you might have done, depending on how you live in this life, you will be reincarnated as something on your next life. Like if you have been a really good person, if you have really collected that good karma, that's the term. That's basically virtue points, uh, signified as a label. You will be reincarnated as a Brahmin. If you did something bad, then something below that. If you did something bad, then you get reincarnated as something below that. Then if you're really bad in this life, then in the next life you get reincarnated as something non-human, some other animal or fish or something lower than human as the mentality goes. That's the explanation used behind the discrimination used through casteism. Of course, it's a very dumb and wrong, but that's the mentality which many people use to justify the discrimination. That if the untouchables must have done something bad in their earlier life, which is why they are facing this punishment, which is justified for them to face. Of course, it's dumb, but that's the explanation people use.
So both of you are now atheists, right?
Yeah.
And so, what are your thoughts about this caste system now that you are no longer of this religious belief? Do you think that it is completely wrong and it's something that people shouldn't even, it should never even have been a thing to begin with? um and what would you, if you had the chance to do something about it, what would you do?
Uh, like, of course, it's bad. Like, there's no disagreement on that. It's bad, and it's something that should be part of the past and not practiced in present days. Uh, it's a see the concept about the job related excuse that people use is something. For example, let's suppose you come from a family of doctors, then by default people expect you to be a doctor whether you want to or not. So that's the concept that is on steroids of multiple levels that's used in the caste system mentality. So it's something that comes in the level of like stereotyping that went very wrong in very different ways. So the real solution is really education. There's no alternative of that. People need to be aware of where it's coming from, why it's wrong, and there's no end all be all solution for it, unfortunately. Like most problems related to social problems are. And the thing about that is it's not something that you do today and it's vanished tomorrow. It's a very gradual and slow process, unfortunately.
With a caste system, I think it's. I think you're muted.
Sorry, I said it's an ongoing conversation.
Yes, it definitely is. With the caste system, I really hope it get abolished as soon as possible.
Mm,
I don't know how it started or what was the intentions behind it, because it's just the books which I haven't read, and then it's the mostly hearsay, and they just tie it with the religion because whoever was benefiting from it just decided to make a book out of it. And you know and you can clearly tell it's written by a male, because when they talk about the caste, it's mostly talking about the men. I missed the question earlier about the intercaste marriage. So just to touch on that, just like what happened in an intercaste marriage, if you are if you run away from your city, then yeah, you don't get honor killed basically. But if you stay in your city or in your village, mostly because this sort of news always comes from the villages, if you stay in your village and you get caught or you are not able to run away, then yeah, unfortunately, the honor killing happens. It's just to protect the pride of the person, a false pride of a person, that we are from the upper caste and how can our son or daughter married to someone in an inferior caste, for lack of the better word. And that's why honor killing still happens. And I mostly hear the news from the villages, although it is true as well. The negative news always pops up. So it is improving uh, in a way that there is less and less of those cases. Like, I don't hear it from other people, like, but you always see it in the news. It's quite common. But I don't know anyone related to me or my friends, or I don't hear the news from them. I just hear it from, an unknown source or a news source or any of that. So it is improving, but yeah, we've got a lot of miles to cover before it can
Yes.
really become better. And yeah, with the caste system, I really hope before before I was an atheist, I was like, yeah, that's okay, because some of it was benefiting me. uh, and although I didn't use the benefits, as I said, I didn't never really use my certificate to get a job, or because I work in a private sector, and private sector doesn't really care, because they care about your skills rather than
Yes.
but in the government jobs, because government, they need to get the votes, right?
Mm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
they have to put those things, like they have to pretend that we are helping the lower caste people. To some extent they have, but they've turned the tide around, and it made worse for like the general category people. And this has to be addressed as well. It should be fair. You should help other people to come up, but at the same time you shouldn't push the people on the top at the down, right? It should be
Yes.
kind of equal.
Mm.
And if it was benefiting me before, I would like, yeah, that's a good system. But now I think about it, I just think it's a good system because it's benefiting me. So I
Mm.
am aware enough to know that this is not right. And yeah, I hopefully, well, I think since the older generation just passes away, and the
Mm.
newer generation, like guys like my generation or Xandrieth's generation, they don't really care too much about the caste or the surnames and stuff. They mostly care about if the person is nice, or the people that you're meeting are nice and they gel well with you, basically. There are still some people, and these people I've mostly seen, who come from a state, uh, or not from a cosmopolitan city. Like in a cosmopolitan city, I genuinely haven't met anyone who cares too much about the caste and stuff. They would make fun about it, in a, like, you're from this caste, but they don't mean anything. There's no venom behind it. But when you go to a state, there's literally venom, and it's serious. It's not, they're kidding. You can tell that they genuinely want to know if you're in a hierarchy, you're higher than them or lower
Okay.
than them. And then one time the guy asked me which gotra or which caste are you from, and I just said, I just from an SC caste. Immediately, his respect for me went down. And I didn't want to tell him that I'm an atheist, because
Well, that would just make it
it's
worse, isn't it?
it's more complicated. Like in
Uh,
the last stream I mentioned, if I tell someone an atheist, they just think that I'm kidding. They just don't think much about it. And
you
it's
know,
like you just want to.
uh, I was told recently. Someone said to me, when I said I'm an atheist, and they said to me, "Oh, you cannot be African and be an atheist. It's impossible. That the God belief is inherent. It's inherent in the African mind. It's an African thing to have a God belief." So, I. I can understand where you're coming from when you say it's complicated. How do you tell someone that says to me it's impossible to be an atheist and be African? How do you begin telling them that it is very possible that you can be African and you can be an atheist? Very possible, but I guess it's for them it's complicated. For me it isn't. It's easy, right? African, I'm an atheist. So
Yeah, I tell them like I reject the concept of God, and they're like, "Are you out of your mind? Are you insane?" And the question that do potential partners care a lot about it?
Yes.
Very good question. If you're in a love marriage, no, because you choose to love
Mm,
that person and
yes.
you find that person on your own. If it is an arranged marriage, most likely yes,
Mm,
because some families are open to it, intercaste marriage or religion marriages. But honestly, I haven't seen a lot. In my all of my family, they if they're trying to look for a potential partner, they always see, oh, this is not from our caste, without even looking at the picture. They like look at the name, like, oh, which caste is it from? No, it can't. It won't understand our rituals. It won't understand our culture.
wow.
Literally, I'm not even kidding. There's like bids on, like, you write the name of the people, because there's like community or like a, old people get together and have a little club, and then they write people is like, oh, in my family these three people want to get married, and some other brings in like, oh no, this is from a different caste, this is, so they match just on the basis of name, without knowing of the person, how they look, what do they do, good people, bad people. It's just like, yeah, they're all good, but from a different, so they match literally according to the caste. And yeah, hilarious.
That's such an eye-opening conversation to have, because I will tell you, both of you, um right. So when I was growing up, uh as a Christian, we were taught that everyone who didn't believe in the Christian doctrine was, they have got it wrong. They've got the wrong religion, and they've got the wrong ideas. Now, I will tell you that what we were told, that the Indian people, because they practice Hinduism and they practice Sikhism, and all the other religions that have several gods that they worship. Oh, no, 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 no. They have it wrong, completely wrong, and they are all on their way to hell, every single one of them, right? Because they don't worship the God of, well, in that sect of Christianity, because I don't think all Christians believe this. So, but these, that every one of you all, right? So whether you're from a Dalit sect, or you're from whatever sect, every one of you all going to hell. So it's interesting now to talk to you all and to find out that even in your culture, even in your systems, right, you still have these sects of different beliefs and ideas. So my question to you is, how do you see people who aren't even from this whole caste system? So someone like myself, of course, I'm not from any of the castes. So how would they see someone like me?
They wouldn't think anything
Will I
about you
will I
because you're
will I
from
will
a.
I be will I be untouchable times two?
No, that's the funny part. If you're not Indian, you're not, or not Hindu, you're kind of exempt from it. Or to most extent,
Oh,
I would say Indian. If you're from a different land, if you're not part of India, you're exempt from all of that crap, because you don't interfere in. You're just there for visitor, right? Or you, even if you stay, you're kind of staying away. You're like an outsider, and
right.
because you being there is not a benefit or a disadvantage to anyone, it doesn't really matter. So that's my answer on that.
Okay. Hmm.
Yeah, and backtracking on the partners thing, in India, marriage is a very family occasion. Like it's
Orientated,
not
right.
just a decision taken by two potential partners. The family is really involved in it a lot more than you see in the Western cultures.
Mm-hmm.
So even if the partners, then even like the arranged marriage has already been discussed, but even in a love marriage kind of situation, the partners themselves might not care because they love each other, but they have to make their parents agree with that in case they are not in agreement. Because just because two people love each other doesn't mean their family likes that and are ready for the marriage. So that becomes part of the conversation because in most cases, unless they're planning to run away, which is really looked down upon for obvious reasons, uh, they have to get approval from the parents. So that's once again it's getting a bit softer. Once again, depending on where you live in India, but that becomes part of the conversation. And a funny thing in India is like unlike the mostly Western countries, if I point out, people are not that well versed with the concept of atheism. So if you tell them someone, even an atheist, they usually don't have a reaction for it. They don't know how to react to that. It's really funny to
you
observe
know,
in
you know,
person.
it's funny you would say that because when I was growing up, I didn't know anything about atheism, right? This is okay. I believe there was Christians, Muslims, and then the others, and the others people who practiced deities that worship deities that weren't either Allah or Yahweh, right? So we would consider those people the spiritualists or the people who were demonic. They would be considered demonic because they didn't practice uh, any of these gods. Now, um, atheism, that's something completely new concept, right? I had to understand, I had to learn about atheism. And so it's funny that you would say that because it seems like it's something that is prominent in places where they're highly religious. For some reason, atheism is not something that is promoted. It's not something that is talked about because as much as possible we want to keep people locked in these religions. And so for a lot of people, when you now tell them you're an atheist, like myself, when I told my family that I'm an atheist, they still don't understand it till now still do not understand it, right? So it's just atheism. I say to people, we are a minority, and we have
I
to.
totally agree.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, because that's exactly it. When I first came across being an atheist very, very late in my life.
Right.
Like I had no concept of it. You just heard a little bit about in movies, and that's about it. And that too was portrayed in a way that you don't want to believe in a god. You're just angry at god. You know it's there, but you
Hmm.
are just angry at it. So that was how it was portrayed in the movies. But I had a colleague, really nice fella, and then we used to talk a lot, and then I think we were having some conversation, and he said to me, um, I said, oh, why don't you do this? And and then he said, I don't really believe in a god. And I'm like, what? And I genuinely thought that he's like, what did god did to you? And he was like, I don't believe in him, I don't think he exists. And I was shook to the core. It's like, it's really
Mm.
nice fella, like I could trust my life with him. And then he's saying that he doesn't believe in a god. And I was forced to think about this stuff. I'm like, how is it possible? I thought everybody who doesn't believe in a god is a sinner, and
Yes.
going to the hell, or nark, as they say it in Hindi, by default. And this guy, and I had to think about it. Then I started looking up at videos and stuff. And it took me a good year to come to grasp. It's like, and I used to watch the videos where it's mostly talking about Christianity, so it was easy to digest for me, because
Right.
not a lot of Indian, or I didn't find many Indian people talking about this stuff. That's the reason why I wanted to start my channel, is like, maybe my searching was really bad, or not
Hmm.
a lot of people talk about it. And it makes sense why they don't, because otherwise you get into trouble.
Mm.
And living in India and doing it is really dangerous. uh, and that's why I try to stay away from the limelight, and like I don't care about being
mm,
famous. I just want people to think, and that's the hook of my channel as well. Like I don't try to put my thoughts into their brain, but I'm just asking questions. It's like, okay,
yeah.
you're saying this, but what about this? Have you considered this? I'm hoping somebody would look at it and say, okay, I didn't really think about it, because that's how I got over it. So I just wanted other people to think as well. And it takes a while. And I think I'm a logical person, although
Mm,
proven wrong many times. But I I think I'm logical enough to understand it. It took me a year to get over it.
mm,
Um, and then others who I know are way more intelligent than me,
mm-hmm,
it may
mm-hmm.
take them less time. But
Okay.
sometimes you don't think about these things.
Mm,
And we don't think they are important, like the intercaste marriage, the caste system, and all that. It's just a default way of living. You don't know any better until
mm-hmm.
you change around, or until you're put in a disadvantage by these systems. Why would I want to think about a system which is really bad for the society unless I'm in a disadvantage of it? If I'm having the advantages, I'll be like, yeah, that's fine. But and that's what catches me. This is
Mm,
what annoying. And rational thinking came with atheism, although atheism doesn't tell atheist people could be irrational as ever. But but because I thought about my biggest uh, you know uh, biggest store that I had, like, God is definitely there. Somebody is always there to take care of me. And when it was shaken, my biggest foundation was shaken. I'm like, started thinking about other things. I'm like, what about this? What about this? What about this? Have to rethink and rejuggle every thought, and that's how I become an atheist. And now I'm strongly against this caste system.
yes.
Any discrimination on the basis of anything is just bad. By the way, only Hindu people think there are million gods or more, or still counting. I don't know. And then in Sikhism, they don't. They just believe in a book, which is a god, or there was 10 gurus, and yeah, so they think that's the god. But yeah, it's weird to me. It's like,
Mm,
okay, somebody wrote a book 500 years ago. Surely, if we read it with an open mind today, we can find some flaws in it. And if you're calling this a perfect book, and I'm not even knowledgeable enough, if I can poke some holes in it, even one, then that's not a perfect book, right?
absolutely not.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
so
absolutely not. So because this is Skeptic Haven and a wonderful platform that tries to bring people together from all over the globe. And so we have people that do support the channel, and I thank them all, the patrons of this particular channel. And I'm going to just at this point just highlight the patrons. They are Deneen Murphy, Dan D, Shannon Gray, Michael Wiseman, Kathy Cotton, Cindy Plaza, Deborah Grace, Sonny Shell, Aaron Colson, and Phil Calderon. So if you're also considering becoming a member, make sure to do so, because this is a platform that, as far as I'm concerned, very, very needed platform. Without this particular platform, can you imagine a world? I don't think I'd ever meet Xandrieth or Raj. Our path would not cross at all, because where on earth would I think of meeting any of you? But because we have the Skeptic Haven, it brings people together. It brings people from all over the globe, and that's an amazing thing as far as I am concerned. So do consider becoming a member. And if you're not subscribed, please make sure to subscribe, and don't forget to give it a thumbs up. So, Xandrieth and Raj, I would like for you to tell us, do you have platforms where you speak and where you have conversations so people can join you all? And if you can give your final thoughts.
Uh, See, I'm mostly under the same username everywhere. Almost people can think of, and I we both have YouTube channels. And my I'm currently a bit paused on the YouTube side, although there's a lot of content already you can check out. Other than that, I'm more active on Insta at the moment,
On where?
and
On where?
Instagram.
Insta. Okay.
Instagram. Yeah, same username everywhere.
Okay.
And I want to point out two things that like we missed earlier. Raj had mentioned about someone burning the Manusmriti as a protest against the caste system. The most prominent case was under B.R. Ambedkar. He wasn't the alone person doing it. He has a
Mhm.
group of people who supported him with that. So it was mostly started with that. There's a day called Manusmriti Dahan Divas. Dahan is a Hindi word that means burn, and Divas is a Hindi word that means day. So it's a Manusmriti burning day. That it started with him as a protest against the caste system.
Right.
And yeah,
What did you call
that
his name? What did you call his name?
B.R. Ambedkar.
BR.
Ambedkar. He is also the person who developed one of the key persons behind developing the Constitution of India,
Right.
and he is also the person who proposed the reservation system that Raj mentioned now. Uh, he is a great guy, and his concept behind the reservation system was about representation of the people, underprivileged
Mhm.
people. He initially proposed it as a system that was supposed to be phased out with the coming years with the improvement, but unfortunately, it rather turned into a system for politicians to gain votes. Although the reservation still needs to exist for obvious reasons,
Yes.
but it's not performing in the way B.R. Ambedkar visioned it to be. Unfortunately,
Hmm.
that's the case.
Right. So, Raj.
My final thoughts are I really want to thank the patrons because these are the people that keeps us going, and
Yes.
these are really important conversations, like really important conversations. I think it is bringing a positive change, and these patrons make it do happen. We just come and talk basically. And you
Yeah,
guys can find me on my YouTube channel, Call Me Atheist. um, it's the same name, and anything that promotes skeptical thinking. Even though even if I find in future that I'm wrong about something, I would love to change it because I'm learning as well, and I'm
Yes.
just presenting my thoughts as I go, and it's all online. Go and rip apart whatever I think, because if you are right, then I'm learning something. If you're wrong, then you can learn something. And
Yes.
it's been a pleasure being here again.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much, Xandrieth and Raj.
thank you so much
And
for having us.
yes, you're welcome. And myself, I'm the Afro Atheist. I'm on YouTube, and I'm also on Instagram. I'm on TikTok. So if you want to follow or to look for me, but thank you to Skeptic Heaven for the platform, and to all the patrons for allowing us to continue to have these conversations. So, guys, just look forward to more content from the Skeptic Haven, and we'll be back. We'll be back sometime soon, right? So, thank you all, and enjoy the rest of your day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. We hopefully see you soon.
Thanks, guys.